I was 6 years old when it happened to me 39 years ago, bro. And I still don't know that I'm like normal. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see it in my eyes when I talk about chomos getting beat up or stabbed. You can see it in my eyes. I'm still up from it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it definitely affects girls, but like also when it's like a man on a man, there's like an extra level with
confusion
men.
That it adds.
Yeah. Like, so like, does this make me, especially when you're a kid, does this make me gay? Like, you know, and there's like there's a huge stigma around men about talking about it when it comes out.
I saw people in Oregon just like, I can't believe you're here. Just a horror story. I call them horror stories.
Violent crimes, they will absolutely snap you. They'll snap you off, bro. They're really light on sexual crimes.
How is that not violence?
They don't care, bro. Like, and they're protected. They're the only protected class in there. So like you can catch hate crimes if you assault somebody who is a sex offender for being a sex offender, whether it be you full-grown women or you hurt children. That makes it a hate crime. They do not protect people that are black, white, Asian, gay, straight, trans. But if you're a sex offender, if you put your dick in a kid, they're going to make sure that you're straight in there. You get a hate crime if somebody hits you. So you literally have to like walk up to them and be like, did you call me a bitch? Right. And then knock them out.
Do you think that's from like the over liberal mentality of that region?
Absolutely. 100%.
Because probably how they, institutions like really liberal colleges, and all of it comes from college, right? Like they're like, oh, sex offenders don't have a choice, because that's probably true. Sex offenders,
I think they're wired like that.
Yeah, they're wired like that.
But I don't care.
And that sucks. By the way, it sucks for them. Nobody's saying that doesn't suck. But that, so then they start to feel empathy for these people. And I think that permeates into the greater like politics of like the state of Oregon. And then they say, oh, you know what? You're right. They get assaulted in prisons. They need to be protected. Don't you? That probably comes from the...
I'm sure that's where it comes from. I just don't have any tolerance for it because
I don't either.
Proven that they are such a liability and a risk factor to be getting out and hurting children again. And I don't think that there's any amount of punitive justice that could be dealt out to them to where they're not going to be a risk for other children.
Yeah, that's a great question. Have they done those studies? Like, do sex offenders who have hurt children, whether that's, all the way to or just like diddling, whatever, do they reoffend when they get out?
So within the first 10 years, it's like in the almost 60 percentile, like almost 60% of them within 10 years get caught for reoffending.
Yeah.
And those are just the ones that get caught and get reported and get convicted.
Right.
So, it's one of the hardest crimes to convict on, especially with children.
Right.
So, by the time someone gets caught with children, it's, they've acted on it and they've gotten caught hard enough to be able to convict, because kids don't make great witnesses.
Right.
You put a kid on the witness stand, then the defense is going to tear them to shreds.
Of course.
And it's a vicious cycle, man. With the whole chomo thing.
But I do think that when you do something like that to kids, like, it's tough for me to even say, but like I dated a woman who was raped when she was 6 years old by like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
But still, she's done. Like she'll never be normal. She'll never have a normal relationship. It's been generations of trauma. And she's like one of the good ones. She hasn't ended up on dope. She hasn't ended up a prostitute, or in an abusive relationship. And she's still fucked up, like basically her entire life. She could never be in a stable relationship. It's almost worse than committing a murder, or it's on the level of committing a murder, because you take a piece from somebody, especially to like girls. I feel like you take a piece from them.
Well,
they can never get back.
I 100% agree that it's on the same level as murder, and that you take something from someone. Like mine, I was 6 years old when it happened to me 39 years ago, bro. And I still don't know that I'm like normal. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see it in my eyes when I talk about chomos getting beat up or stabbed. You can see it in my eyes. I'm still fucked up from it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it definitely affects girls, but like also when it's like a man on a man, there's like an extra level with
confusion
men.
that it adds.
Yeah. Like, so like, does this make me, especially when you're a kid, does this make me gay? Like, you know, and there's like there's a huge stigma around men about talking about it when it comes out. You know, I've never gone and spoken at a public event where I shared my story, and I always share that as a part of it, because from the first time that I did, I had 4 people come up afterwards and tell me that it happened to them and they've never felt safe in talking about it. But the fact that I could talk about it in front of so many people made them feel safer. So I just kept talking about it. I was scared shitless, bro. Like my heart was in my throat. I'm standing in a room, like a big hall full of men. And there's like 45 men that I barely know. And I'm telling them about that I was raped by a man when I was 6 years old. Like I was shaking, bro. I was sweating. And then afterwards, it was obvious that it helped other men. You know, a lot of people that have been in hardcore addiction have been sexually assaulted. And it's a lot more prominent in men than we're ever gonna know, because there's such a stigma about coming out about it. So I've kept it as a part of any time I do public speaking. And it's just been a constant. Every time I do, some people want to talk to me afterwards and tell me that they share the same story, but they've never been able to really talk about it, and that me speaking out helped them be able to vocalize it, at least to me, because I feel like a safe person, which I think is so important to break through that barrier, because how I got healing from it was being able to talk about it with other people, you know?
Totally. No, that's great, man. And what is the solution? What's the solution to that? I mean, somebody rapes a child. I mean, obviously they should never be let out of prison, but how do you take that like genetic, don't you think they should be studied while they're in prison? Like, is there a way to genetically break that from the family lineage?
Find the genetic marker and, be able to, type of breed it out of people or something.
Yeah.
Or is it super cool, but like,
or keep it in check, or like keep it in check. If maybe in the future, they'll be able to do that. Yeah. Like with babies, they'll be able to say, he's predisposed to being a diaper sniper.
Yeah. Well, so like there was, I know that there's studies that go on with serial killers and school shooters. You remember Kip Kinkle?
Of course. Kip. Kip is a legend, bro. Yeah. We love Kip. Kip had good paperwork though.
A school shooting?
It's technically good paperwork. I heard somebody describe Kip's paperwork as good paperwork. And I said, okay,
crazy, bro.
I heard that from a big white guy.
He shot up a school, bro. Like the damage he did in that community. But like, here's the thing is I saw a neuroscientist who studied Kip Kinkle's brain. He said that Kip Kinkle's brain was the scariest thing that he's legitimately ever seen in his life, that it was so underdeveloped and that it was so far from normal that he doesn't know if it was something that happened. Like he said, it almost resembled fetal alcohol syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Or some sort of like developmental stunting like that would happen in utero. Right. And I just found that pretty fascinating. Yeah. And I wish that they would continue to study people who victimize children, because I do believe that it's compulsive. I do believe that they don't have control over it. I think that they can kind of manage it to a certain level, but given the opportunity, I think any of them would reoffend if they felt like there was a low enough chance of them getting away with it. I feel like they're just like devious little opportunists.
I'd be fascinated to know how strong that pull is. Like, is it as strong as the pull that you have to smoke meth after you take a shot of JMO? Or is it like I would just be fascinated by
I would assume that it would be, and this is like, this is all just conjecture, but like I would assume that it would be like the same urge that like we have towards sleeping with women.
Oh boy, there's gonna be no hope for these chomos.
It's fucked up, right? It's fucked up.
But I will say, because I go to these, I'm in a relationship, and I gotta go to these sex addict meetings just because I can't stop fucking pussy.
Are you going to sex addict meetings?
Yeah, I go and I do a lot of the. I'm not hardcore, like I'm not even fully convinced that I'm a sex addict. I think I had a compulsive behavior for a long time that just grew. I was never abused or anything like that, but and my girlfriend will never see this. When we first started dating, I was just sleeping around. You know what I mean? And it did feel like I couldn't control myself. And when I couldn't get laid, like when she would take my passwords or my Instagram passwords or whatever, and I literally couldn't access other women, I would start to like get sick, and I would start to like, I would feel almost like a drug, like I was coming down from a drug. So there was like a dopamine rush that I became addicted to. So I go to the meetings, but my point is like, now that I'm able to like identify thoughts and triggers, I do feel myself like improving, like it's getting easier to not do it. So,
So any type of compulsive mental disorder, whether it be substances, whether it be gambling, whether it be sexual compulsions, like they all stem from the same, it's all like rooted, it has the basic same type of tenets. You know what I'm saying? So, working a program where you're constantly aware of what your triggers are and, having tools to cope with that, it would be the same as gambling addicts. It would be the same as, people who use drugs or, it's really interesting how, Kaiser did a study and they were trying to study eating disorders because eating disorders are the same thing. They were trying to like solve obesity. And they ended up stumbling upon, that all of these compulsive mental disorders are the same shit. Like, neurologically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Anytime that anything is hitting you in the limbic system, which is the reward center of your brain with, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and you can access that to a point where you know how to trigger it, it can very easily spiral out of control.
Yeah.
So,
so probably the Chomo shit, it's like, there is a way to rewire or at least, use cognitive therapy to teach people how to not behave that way, but you've still done the damage. And you shouldn't be a protected class. If you're not going to protect drug addicts as a protected class, you shouldn't protect sex offenders.